Back. My next guest, Debbie, had her son threatened to stab her and has been forced into hiding because of drug dealers coming after him. Debbie, what was it your 15-year-old son David did with this knife?
Stab me.
He actually did stab you?
Yeah.
Where?
My leg.
What was that about, for heaven's sake?
Just lost it.
I understand he threatened you with something just the other week. What was that?
An iron.
An iron? What did he say he was going to do with the iron?
Kill me.
Were you frightened of him? Frightened of your own 15-year-old son? Now, what about the fact that you're living in a safe house? Why is that? His
drugs.
His drugs?
Yeah.
What sort of drugs are we talking about?
The weed.
What do you think's going to happen to David if things don't change?
End up dead. Or in prison.
Well, let's welcome back David. Hi, Debbie. Well, when we last met, things were pretty desperate, and it was David's temper that we were talking about, and the drugs. And just to remind people, you were living... Are you still there in a safe house?
No.
But you were in a safe house just to get away from the people who David owed money to. And what were your fears for David if things didn't change?
Well, he'll end up on the streets dead. Anything could happen to him, and I just don't know what to do.
So now, when you talk about him ending up on the streets, I guess the inverted commas, the surprise we had for you, David, was to send you out actually on the streets with our counsellor, Ricky, to see what could happen to you if things don't change. Now, we've got a bit of videotape about how that went, so let's have a look at that before I ask you about it.
I am a counsellor now, and I do use lots of other therapies with the people that I see. Many people don't know that I was actually homeless for a 2-week period, and that I was very much involved in the world of drugs from around the age of 13 right through to the age of 29 when I finally quit.
I wanted to leave home because I've not got a good relationship with mum and dad, because I've took skunk and solid just because my mates tried it. I don't want to take it because it just wrecks your brain cells and it's not a nice thing.
David has had a tough life. He has had quite a lot of things going on in his background. And I think a lot of what he's doing, the drug taking, the acting out in his behaviour, I think it's actually a cry for help. And I think we can give him some help. And that's what we'll be doing with him tonight. Hello, David. I'm Ricky. I'm here to give you a short, sharp shock about what it's like to live on the streets and being involved in some of the drug culture of being on the streets. You up for that? Good man. I used to actually hang around on the streets around here and deal drugs and stuff. So that's part of the reason they asked me to do this with you. Over here is a typical park that you'll get in many parts of London. You know, it looks fine at the moment, it's locked up, but I can tell you, during the day, often these parks are a gathering place for drinkers and people using and abusing drugs. Myself, in the past, I've been in this park and I've scored, and I've seen people fixing up in here in the daylight, you know, just leaning up against a tree, sticking a needle in their arm and then pulling it out and just tossing it on the ground, you know, not giving a monkey's about anyone else around them. So, you know, kids could go in there, kids could go running in, tread on it, stab themselves on it. Not pleasant. They could catch anything. I know you haven't done hard drugs. Is that true?
Yeah.
What have you done?
Done skunk and solid.
Yeah. And do you remember the first time you took those drugs?
Yeah.
And was it good?
No. Well, at first it is, yeah, but after a bit, you still want to do it.
So it's just become a habit now that you're doing and you're not enjoying and it's costing you money.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Do you want to carry on with that?
No.
Sorry for disturbing you, lads.
That's all right.
Is there any chance for a bit of loose change, please?
I ain't got a lot. Look, I'll tell you, that's all the only change I've got, honestly. There's no more change on me. All right. Did you see that they had a scar down here? They had a scar under there as well. And I don't think they was from a motor accident. I'd say that the person had been cut, you know, with a knife, had been sliced. And who knows what he would have got sliced for, whether it was just to steal a hat off of him, steal his shoes or steal a bit of food. That's just how the basic level of survival gets here. It's very, very basic survival of the fittest most of the time. This is what a lot of people will be carrying with them to survive on the street. So let's have a look. Let's see the typical sort of stuff that you're going to find. A water bottle, just to be able to have some water in the middle of the night. This is probably the main way you'd be washing, some kind of wipes. And probably the most important part of survival kit is your toothbrush, because I don't know about you, but if you haven't brushed your teeth for a couple of days, things get nasty. And there's a lighter in there as well, just in case you do find yourself in a spot where you can set light to the papers and maybe make a fire. And of course, blankets. And this is the sort of thing that myself ended up with, just a very small amount of possessions, just enough that it can carry. Keep an eye on when you're asleep, because, you know, if you're asleep, people could try and steal your shoes, steal all sorts of things. Can you see yourself ever leading this type of lifestyle?
I can't see myself doing it, and I wouldn't like to do it.
You wouldn't like to do it. So what's going to stop you in your life from doing it?
Probably stop taking drugs.
Excellent, good man. It's getting later and later. Been on the street most of the day now. Now, here's your spot, here's your bed. Now, let's see you make your bed and lie in it. Okay, good night. See you in the morning. Take care. Okay, David, so we've left you in there now for 15, 20 minutes so far. How's it been?
Quite cool.
Quite cold, yeah? You do have a choice right now. You can come with me or you can stay in that box. What do you want to have?
Let's come with you and have a better night.
Okay, come on then. Let's go do it.
David, did you see anything out on the streets that freaked you out a little bit?
Yeah.
What sort of things did you see?
Drunkies and this guy who came along with his face cut a bit and just hanging.
What did you think when you saw him?
I don't want to turn out like that.
So, Ricky, you were out there on the streets. What do you think it is that David can do now?
Well, he has to get focused on having that better life that he was talking about and making it a reality. And the way I see David, actually, when I read the notes on him, I thought, oh, crikey, what kind of youngster am I going to be taking out on the streets? Am I going to be able to do anything with him?
Yeah,
and am I going to be able to cope with him?
Yeah.
And then when I met him, and I thought, wow, he's actually a really nice guy. You know, there's a lot of softness about him. And he probably won't like me saying that, and I hope you don't get any stick for that, but there is a softness about him, and he's doing his best to be a harder man than he actually is.
Ah.
And I think that's partly because he needs to defend himself against the hurt that he's carrying around from his past.
Yeah.
And if he gets that healed up and sorted with, then there'd be no reason for that,
all that posturing
expressiveness of the aggression and outbursts of anger towards anyone.
Now, that's interesting. We're talking about anger. Is there anybody else you'd like to take on that night tour, Ricky?
Yeah, Anne. We'd like to ask Anne if she would come along. Anne?
Is that something you'd like to do?
No, not really, but...
Is it something is it a challenge you're willing to take up?
Yeah.
OK, see you. Thanks. Thank you, Ricky.